Ukrainian Polissya is a land of wild forests and misty marshes, the enchanting Desna River and ancient manorial parks, picturesque prehistoric rocks, and crystal-clear meandering lakes. It extends and flows in a wide almost 100-kilometer strip in the north of Ukraine and occupies 1/5 of its territory. In fact, it is virtually impossible to encompass the vast expanses of the Polissya area. Finding yourself in the Mezyn National Nature Park, you'll see another wonder. The distinctive feature of this part of the Ukrainian woodlands is the landscape and its natural complexes that are not typical for the Polissya region. Polissya is a plain, and the Mezyn Park is replete with ravines and uplands, unique flat-bottom valleys, and hills vegetated with woods that lead directly to the Desna River. The indigenous species in these places are chalk and losses, also not typical for the Polissya region. This is exactly the uniqueness of the local places that need to be studied and treated with special care by the personnel of the Mezyn National Nature Reserve Park. This park was created as an environmental protection facility in 2006, though botanists and zoologists began studying it back in the 1980s. While conducting thorough studies, many rare plants, among which there are at least 20 relic and endemic species listed in the Red Book of Extinction, were found. Entomofauna is also widely represented. Floodplain meadows of the Desna River are attractive for waterfowls as pastures. Their accumulation during seasonal migration is of great scientific interest for ornithologists and is another weighty argument for the special care devoted to these protected places.
Парк взагалі як родзинка Чернігова-Сіверщини входить до заголовкового.
A special gem of Chernihiv-Severshchina area is the Mezyn National Nature Reserve Park, which is a link in the golden ring of tourist routes in the Chernihiv Oblast. Among them are untrodden paths of unique deciduous forests, which are also not typical for Polissya and the present-day ravine system.
Презентують яружно-балкову систему.
Settled on the slopes of ravines and flat-bottom valleys, linden, ash, and oak trees were successfully adapted to natural conditions that are not inherent for them. Central trees trying to reach out to catch sunlight with their thin trunks that are quite vulnerable to strong winds are protected by the very steep slopes, and the trees rooted on the tops of the hilly terrain that are capable of opposing natural elements have thicker trunks. Unlike plants, men could not settle and dominate in these ravines and flat-bottom valleys. That's why this wild virgin forest managed to survive and today is protected in the Rykhlivska Dacha reserve.
Рykhlivska Dacha, як заказник загальнодержавного значення.
It's a protected area. The value of this deciduous forest lies in its unusual structure.
Як заповідна зона цієї території. Ми звикли, що на Поліссі, на лівобережному Поліссі.
On the left bank of Polissya, we used to see mostly pine forests that grow on the floodplain pine terraces of the Desna, Dnipro, and Ubed rivers. And in this place, a species of a typical deciduous forest adapted. And trees broken by high winds are quite the natural phenomenon for this forest. In the conditions of forestry, it would be easier to deal with it quickly, but in the protected zone with a forest that remained untouched over 300 years, human intervention, even with good intentions, is ruled out. The old forest can still constantly regenerate. Even with such windbreaks, when dozens, hundreds of trees die, they will be replaced, will grow, and will get stronger over time. But there is no emptiness in nature, and these trees will become a source of food for insects that destroy dead wood, mushrooms, and plants.
Сапротрофів стає їжею для руйнівних грибів і так далі.
These paths will remain impassable for many years to come. Small branches and trunks decay for 10 or more years and then will manage to survive the spring awakening of nature for many years. Here it begins with flowering of Ephemerides. As soon as the snow melts, the first flowers blossom and cover the edges with a colorful carpet.
ліс, який начебто...
In fact, in this climatic zone, the forest should come to life at the beginning of summer. But it is thanks to primroses that the trees get a fresh breath of life much earlier. In spring, when corydalus, anemone, gagea appear among bare trees, they not only adorn the forest, but also can be of academic interest as an integral part of this deciduous forest.
Неморальних або листяних групувань.
There are about 10 species of spring ephemeroids that grow on the Rykhlivska Dacha reserve. These yellow flowers catch our attention. At first glance, these plants are similar, though they belong to 3 different species.
Це анемона,
It is anemone or lesser anemone, then big-root buttercup and gagea.
і зірочки жовті.
A special charm is hidden in the central disc of the flower, dotted with numerous pistils and stamens. Delicate petals react sensibly to weather, closing in frost in the nasty weather and at night. This way they protect pollen from rain and dew, and on a clear day with rising of the sun, its flowers bloom, thus exposing their fertile core. Anemone is clearly visible in the leafless forest, and insects readily settle on its flowers to pollinate them. These plants play a significant role in the ecosystem of these deciduous forests. They are the source of nectar and pollen for the first insects.
Ось анемона жовтицева – це 5-компонентна квітка з багатьма тичинками і маточками. Якщо взяти пшінку,
Fig-root buttercup has a large number of petals, stamens and marks.
листочків, багато тичиночок і маточок. Вони належать до однієї родини. Якщо брати гусячу...
Unlike it, gagea looks like an asterisk with many pointed petals and belongs to the family of Liliaceae.
Належить до родини лілійних.
They are widely known as asterisks. They glow among rare young green grass, covering the forest with a yellow-green carpet. These amazing plants blossom when there is no foliage on the trees and every sunbeam reaches the soil that is saturated with moisture. Why so early? They tend to be the first under the sun, and it is desirable that this light window be open as much as possible. This is possible until the trees and shrubs are covered with leaves. Another natural feature that ephemeroids have allows them to rapidly grow and strengthen. Local primroses accumulate in advance those nutrients in their tubers, bulbs, or rhizomes from less spring in the soil. For example, let's look at a hollow root. This is its tuber from which a flowered stem grows in spring.
Ось вона така велика, така
It is large, massive, and thanks to this tuber plant very quickly develops and flowers.
Швидко піднімається, розвивається, квітує. Квітує вона 2
It blooms for about 2 weeks with lilac and pink flowers, and right up until early May, this forest remains so sunny and colorful.
Травня ще буде залишатись таким яскравим, сонячним і різнобарвним. Трошки пізніше
A bit later, the bright carpet will disappear. The flowers will hide until the next spring, and the typical forest green vegetation will replace them.
Той ковер, який ми маємо зараз, він просто зникне.
Then the main inhabitants of the local forest, trees and shrubs, most of which are of a fairly respectable age, will enjoy their rights. In the Rykhlivska Dacha, there are many long-living oak trees. As witnesses of many historical events, these giant trees were given their own names: Hollow Oak, Oak of Desires, Horned Oak, and Mazeppa's Oak. On average, their age is more than 500 years. In the reserve, there are many century-old oak trees. The hollow oak and horned oak became the hallmark of our national park. Our ancestors appreciated these trees and protected them for future generations. Even during World War II, when German invaders wanted to destroy these century-old trees, and especially brought loggers from Romania for this, these giants managed to survive. An old lane of spruce trees was preserved on the territory of the Rykhlivska Dacha. In the early 20th century, monks of the St. Michael's Monastery planted 100 small spruces, among which 79 have survived to this day. Winged giants joined their tops, whisper their history to visitors and travelers.
Чим цікава ялина? Ялина, або її називають на Західній Україні смерека.
The main feature of spruce is that this northern taiga tree with a special quality wood was used to build ships and even make musical instruments.
Яка іде як об'єкт музичних інструментів. Трембіти, скрипки.
Special dry spruce was selected for producing trembita and even violins. It was believed that the instrument produced a clearer sound if the tree used for its production was struck by lightning. In this case, the wood would never gum. There are several species of coniferous trees in the Polissyan forest of the Mezyn National Nature Reserve Park. Juniper, spruce, and pine are very similar trees. In fact, the needle crown is the only thing that unites them. Spruce, for example, is a water-intensive tree with a lateral root system that tolerates shade. It is no coincidence that its large trees, under intense storms, fall while being uprooted. A pine tree, on the contrary, feeds due to deep penetration of the roots into the soil, but pine is not afraid of sunlight. Being a pine forest, you feel a warm and bright atmosphere. Unlike a pine forest, a spruce forest is damp and wet. However, in summer, the cool of spruce lanes are much more preferable. Indeed, monks of the Rykhlivska Monastery, passing under the tree crowns, felt this special atmosphere of the lulling sounds of the shaded alley.
Цікаво, що на території Рykhlivської дачі ялинова алея не
This lane led to the caves of the monastery. When monks or novices walked along it, they often cited the prayer Our Father, feeling a special magnitude under the crowns of these trees.
Кілька разів молитву «Отче наш» і відчути велич і могутність цієї землі.
The foundation of the desert Rykhlivska Monastery is linked to the miraculous appearance of St. Nicholas' image. While walking through the forest and inspecting the sites, a local beekeeper from the neighboring village of Obolon noticed the image of St. Nicholas on the branch of a maple tree. Not telling anyone about this, he took the icon, and in the morning he didn't find it in his home. In search of the loss, the beekeeper again went to the same maple tree and was not mistaken. Understanding that it was a miracle-working icon, he decided to take it home again, and he again failed. After 3 attempts, he accepted it and made the icon public. On the place of the maple, a chapel in honor of the appearance of St. Nicholas's icon was built, and after that the monastery. According to historical and literary sources, the monastery appeared in 1654. Then, in the Church of St. Nicholas, there were only 2 monks. And by the early 18th century, the first stone temples with 5 or 7 thrones appeared. It was patronized by Ukrainian hetmans, who issued acts for these land parcels. Although the monastery was mainly built on the donations of nobles, its monks also contributed significantly to its development. Having their land plots, water mills, and a mounted crossing over the Desna River, the monks exchanged goods with traders who came on barges with provisions. For example, brick produced in the monastic yard was a popular commodity for exchange. They built their own power plant in the monastery. Local residents were the first in the Korop area to feel the benefits of civilization. Until this day, a residential building made of monastic brick and a spruce tree lane leading to the monastery caves have been preserved. Today, the St. Michael's Shrine resurrects, hospitably accepting all who need spiritual support, who wish silence and rest under the shady spruce lane, and wandering among the centuries-old oaks, meditating on the eternal. Travel and open with us the unexplored Ukraine.